Every once in a while, I get asked, where do I think e-bike prices are going? What is the trends? What's going on in the market? Is it a good time to buy? And in this video, I'm going to explain what I think is going to be happening in the market based on some of the data that I've been looking over. I spent probably half the day just looking over all of the information out there of what is going on with the e-bike industry, supply chain, everything else. So I wanted to go ahead and kind of share what I found out, because this is the kind of fun stuff that I find interesting about the industry in itself. And the first thing I want to start off with is the CPI report, which is the Consumer Price Index. And it actually talks about the inflation prices or inflation that's going on in the United States. So this Consumer Price Index, what I'm going to be showing you here, is actually back-to-back the June of 2021 here on the left side of my screen and the June 2022, the report that just came out last week explaining what's going on with the inflation rates now in the US. And most of you have probably already heard inflation is going through the roof, but it might be actually worse than we think. Now, will that really affect e-bike prices? Because there's two ways to think about it. Inflation is going up really high, so that means consumer demand might start to drop, which also could mean that less demand, the prices of e-bikes could come down. Is that really going to be helpful? But there's more to it than that. So let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of the pages in here. I'm going to go to page 11 first, because this is where most of the interesting stuff really starts to happen that does affect the e-bike industry in itself, as far as trends, maybe indirectly more than directly. And we're going to start with, of course, what everybody's been complaining about, and that is gasoline prices, and why I think this is an important number to take a look at. Now, this here on the right side is the report that came out just last week, and it says unleaded gasoline has gone up 60% year over year. So from last year June to this year June, we have a 60% increase in gas prices. Now, that's a lot. But when you take a look at the year before that, we already had a 46% increase in gas prices. So let's just say gasoline was $100, and from June of 2020, and then of June of 2021, that 46% increase, now we're paying $146 for gas. For the same amount of gas, that's what's going in to our tanks now. Now, if we look at you adding on another 60%, that's not just 60% of the $100. It's actually a 60% increase over the $146 that we actually originally paid. So we are seeing exponential, or what I guess you would say compounding interest that's actually being put onto this type of commodity for us. So this gas prices has been really, of course, a problem. Everybody's feeling it. There's nobody out there, unless they've been living under a rock or haven't been driving, that hasn't heard about how bad gas prices are. The cool thing is gas prices are starting to come down. As cool as that might sound, though, we have gone in California from about mid $6 to about just under $6 or at $6. And this is what people are saying they're relieved about. It's kind of crazy to think that $6 people are happy that it's hit that level because it's been so high. Now, will gas prices continue to come down? We're going to be covering some of that as well. But I wanted to cover a little more into this because gas prices is affecting what people are deciding to do when it comes to transportation. It is said that it's possible gas prices could go as high as $8 a gallon. Now, if that happens, people are going to have to make decisions on finding cheaper ways to go ahead and get around. And that cheaper way could be e-bikes. In fact, we had already seen it when gas started hitting $5 a gallon. There was a lot of people already hitting the e-bike stores or calling around saying, hey, I would like to find a different way to go ahead and travel around. So the e-bike sales started to again push. Now, this is again a time when everybody was having a lot of shortages with e-bikes, and supply chain has gotten better. We're going to talk about that a little as well, but gas prices is a big driver that's going to make a big difference on that, and it also affects transportation costs. So let's go ahead and now look at from page 11. Page 12 also has some interesting things for us to look at on what people will buying habits might change regarding coming into getting an e-bike. And what I'd like to point out here is new car prices from 2020 to 2021 had gone up 5%. And you're looking at truck prices are going from, 5% increase on that. And that's not actually all that bad considering we had such a huge shortage of cars. But we're looking now at this year, new cars have increased another 12% year over year. So we're looking at 4.7% here for the new cars, all the way up to 12.7% again for new cars this year. Again, that's compounding on the price increases. And new trucks, 5.7 to 11.1. Again, still very hard to even come by finding cars. And what's been crazy is that used cars last year had gone up 45%. And that's because a lot of people who were trying to look for new cars couldn't find any, needed a vehicle, pushing up the prices of used cars there. Also, with gas prices going up, people needing to downgrade their maybe vehicles that actually used a lot of gas, still pushing up used cars because it was worth them spending the extra money, even if it is inflated prices, because of the amount that they'd be saving on gas. Used car prices are still going up another 7%. So you're talking 45% the year before, year over year, now another 7%, more than 50% increase there. And that is still something that you're going to have to consider when somebody thinking about, are people going to be jumping into the e-bike market? Let's go ahead and take a look at now page 13, where we actually see prices of bikes. Now, this is directly related to sport vehicles, including bicycles. This does not necessarily consider this e-bikes, but because there was such a huge bicycle shortage and a lot of e-bikes run the same components and parts of regular bicycles, this is something to just take a look at, because it's something we should consider. Year over year, 2020 to 2021, there was an 8% increase. There has been another 3.6% increase since then, and this is something I've seen. A majority of, I guess, the average bike prices across the board have gone up about $200. And being that most bikes run about, on average for the more economical bikes that I've seen go up $200, running about $1,300, $1,400, or $1,500, that's about right. If you're seeing like about 11% add on to it, $150 to $200 increases on there, that's kind of what we've been seeing. And that is, I think, a trend that we are going to continue to see happen. So at page 13, this is where we are seeing the prices of our bicycles. And then let's go ahead and just go to page 14. This is the last page I'm going to cover over the CPI index. But I'd like to go ahead and point out car and truck rental. 87% increase. And this is just covering general transportation. We have now seen a 7% drop in car and truck rental. And that is after, though, I mean, people are saying, wow, it's a drop in car and truck rental, but after an 87% increase last year, so if we were at $100 and the 87% now is $187 to rent a car, and then we're talking about a 7% drop, that's a 7% drop off of that 187. It doesn't actually bring it back down. So we are still quite high in our car and truck rental, and this is the reason why I bring this up, is because it's just basic transportation services. And public transportation, 17% last year has gone up. We have seen a 23% increase this year. That's a lot, and a lot of it's going to be, I would say, attributed to also gas prices. So if gas prices don't come into line, I don't know, I guess my research has been telling me that it's not so much only the oil supply problem that we're having, but it is also the refinery problems that we're actually having to make more of the gasoline that we need. But gas prices are so high right now, it would have to come down 50% to get back to where it was before. And it's very unlikely that's going to happen. Now, with the recessions claiming and with interest rates going up so high, we are starting to see some commodities come down. And that's one of the reasons why gas prices are coming down, because people are thinking that our economy is going to slow down. So with the slowdown with the economy, could that bring down e-bike prices? Let's take a look at trends. So I want to go ahead and open up what I call the Google Trend Research, and this is what people are searching online. And this really does help show an interest of what's going on in the e-bike world. And if you take a look here, from 2016, 2018, this is all pre-pandemic, nothing is really going on. And all of a sudden, when we come to January 2020, when everything starts to lock down, within a few months, we see a huge increase in the interest of e-bikes. Of course, we're still in lockdown during this time period. Winter comes, things start to slow down again, but we're still above pre-pandemic levels of the high peaks during the slow period of that. Then again, summer starts coming around, people start taking an interest, we see a huge surge again. And if you take a look at the peak here, July of 2021 was when most of the highest interest is. And then of course, still in August, we still have a very strong indicator that people were looking. That is the same of what we're seeing right here. This is July right now, 2022. Look at this doubling almost of the interest of searches that are happening for e-bikes. People are now finding out what e-bikes are. In fact, a year ago when I was telling people I was doing an e-bike channel, I had to explain what an e-bike was. Now everybody knows where they are, what they are. So we're seeing this huge beginning of the interest actually still taking off on e-bikes. And with supply chain loosening up a little, people are now being able to get their e-bikes even faster, which is still driving even more interest as well. But my point is with this chart here is we see July and August being the two highest peaks here. Again, same July and August, and this is still July, and we still have an August to come around to see how well that's going to pick up. Now this is not just the e-bike term. Let's take a look at when we look at the top 3 sellers of e-bikes right now. Lectric XP is still the top selling e-bike company right now, and if we look at the red line here, we see this huge surge for them as well, just picking up, taking off right here. And this is a good indicator of what's trending out there. The #1 e-bike company as far as sales goes is now pulling just a almost strict vertical up from January up until now, which is almost triple of what they had interest in from early January. And let's look even further. Let's go ahead and pull in Aventon. Aventon is the second largest, I guess, right now that's coming in as far as sales goes. And they too have just seen this straight vertical up from January up until now. With the research that I've been seeing, this is pretty much what we're seeing in the market. And we also are now seeing more distribution coming out. Aventon is now even in Best Buy, along with other big brands that are out there. You can actually go to a Best Buy, not even a bike shop, now and pick up an e-bike. That's pretty amazing that we're having that much interest starting to flood the market out there. And again, we have also Rad Power Bikes. I mean, this is also another big player in the market, and they too are also seeing a huge increase coming up into the trends that are happening with bike sales. So regardless, if we're going to be having a recession or we're already in a recession, that when this starts to happen and interest rate starts to go up, will it affect the e-bike market? Not as much as it will affect, like say something like the automotive market or the housing market. Housing market is completely seeing a turnaround right now and slowdown in sales. The car market, with their interest rates on loans for cars, are also going to be another factor why it's going to be harder for cars to be sold. I'm going to go ahead and say why I think prices are going to be very hard to bring down. Let's take a look at the trends or the forecast of what's coming up for gasoline. The trends is still going to be in an upward trend. At 333 right now, what they're saying is still going to be another 10% added on by the end of 2023, so within 1 year's period of time. Now, the one biggest factor why I think we're going to have difficulty getting prices down is because of lithium. Almost half the cost of a bike, not necessarily fully, but almost half the cost of a bike comes out in the cost of a battery. And one of the reasons why is because the lithium is skyrocketing in pricing. Looking at lithium for a 5-year trend, this is at the bottom of the market when pandemic hit. We are seeing a straight vertical up 5 or 6 times cost of the batteries itself. And now what I've been seeing is one of the reasons why prices of bikes have been going up is that the manufacturers or these sellers are actually doubling the size of their bikes. They know people want to go further and are willing to pay a couple extra $100s for it. So right now, even though bike prices in general, as an average, are going higher in pricing, you're getting a better quality bike. So in my opinion, bike prices are still fairly reasonable as an average as far as what you get in value. It hasn't really gone up that much yet. But everybody's fighting for lithium for the batteries for cars and for e-bikes, which is driving up the prices. The other problem that we're actually having is still the war that's in Russia. Now, that's not necessarily affecting us as far as energy goes, but they are affecting us as far as raw materials. Ukraine and Russia were the largest exporters of steel. Now, we don't have a lot of our steel, but raw materials coming from that area in the region, thankfully they've been coming down. And that's because of the housing market and all of the construction being stopped. That's bringing the prices down, but the material itself is still very hard to come by. What we are going to be affected by a lot is aluminum, because a lot of our frames are made of aluminum and a lot of our parts. And again, we are seeing, because of the way that they are seeing economic trends starting to come down as far as global productivity, that aluminum prices have dropped considerably, which is great. But again, 2019, before the pandemic, this is where aluminum prices were at, maybe about 17 or 1800, and they're still at 2300. That's a huge increase. It's much lower than where it was before, but we are still seeing that prices here for aluminum, which means our raw materials costs for a lot of our bike parts are still very, very expensive. Statistically speaking, everybody who's been looking into this type of what's going on with the e-bike market is saying that we're going to start to see more and more e-bikes in demand continuously all the way. Then it's a global thing because of gas prices in general and everybody wanting to go green. We are also looking at the problems that we're having in supply chain issues, although it's been getting better, where we had like 100 ships sitting off the port of LA and in Long Beach. We are still at a 2-week delay before containers gets offloaded off of ships. So there's actually still a small parking lot out there of like 20 ships that are waiting to come in to take off their load. Pre-pandemic, there was actually no ships. They would come in, they would unload, and they go back. Now this 2-week delay is actually delaying the ship from going back. The good thing is that we do have container prices coming down. About 60 bikes could fit in a container before, and it would cost them pre-pandemic about $2,500 to $3,000 to get 60 bikes in there. Distribute that across all the bikes. But in the height of the pandemic, when we have the supply chain issues and really big problems, it was $20,000 per container. So now you're going to split $20,000 over 60 bikes. That's still a lot of increase now in cost, and that's one of the reasons why we had such high increases in some of the bike products coming in, and of course the delays and the demand being so high, people were willing to pay it so they could charge that much. So now that bike container costs have come down, we're still really high. They're still about $6,000 to $7,000 container from what I've been hearing, which is still a big relief, but you're still looking at some increasing over pre-pandemic times. And add that to all the other costs, because even though the container prices have come down, gas prices are up. So it still costs a lot more to come across the ocean to bring the bikes over to us. So we have this offset that's actually still happening. Now we still also have other issues. This is one thing I'm concerned about, is that there's going to be an issue with our ports here in LA where most of the bikes come into. There's going to be potentially an issue with a new law that's coming into play where we're going to potentially lose a lot of truckers. We're already short truckers, which is why there's a 2-week delay of ships getting unloaded. They can unload the containers, but there's not enough truckers to go in and take the containers off of the ports and get them delivered to the stores and to the warehouses. We have another issue on top of that, is railroad problems are now a bottleneck. I don't know how they're going to be solving too much of these issues. So, there's something to be said that potentially we're going to see some price drops. I have seen that with a couple of the big manufacturers or big e-bike companies who have dropped their prices a couple $100. So here's where you're going to be able to get some deals. Kind of like car shopping, looking for last year's models to be moved out for this year's to come in. You might be able to go ahead and get some of these great deals coming in. You're going to have to do your research, check into different areas. I would even potentially call. These are where you're going to be able to get some of the deals. I think Rad Power Bikes had actually some of their prices come down. I'll have a link below in the description to their website if you want to click on that. And I think we saw some $200 discounts on some of their bikes from some of the older models. And it could be because they actually need some room or space to go ahead and bring in more inventory that's on its way. I do know that there is still shortages on other companies. I've been watching some of the Facebook pages on some of these other places, and they're saying that they've been waiting 3, 4, 5 weeks for their bikes to come in. And this is kind of for the bigger name brands that actually have a lot of high volume. And of course, these are the lower priced bikes. So you have these opportunities that are still available. Some of the other things I just want to bring up is that the chip shortages are actually getting better, but that's only going to help the vehicle market. But yet, we don't know how that's going to be an effect to us, whether the e-bike prices will be affected by that or not. Another thing I wanted to bring up, which is really interesting through my research, is the rubber industry. As you know, every bike has rubber tires, and the rubber industry has actually been going through an alarming shortage that no one's really talking about. And now this is a production shortage. Rubber trees, from my understanding, something I had read a while back, is that it could be a big problem because of the trees actually getting maybe infested by some type of parasite that's out there. But on top of that, of course, production of the rubber has to be then made and then shipped out, and once there's a supply chain issue with that, the prices start to go up as well. A lot of companies have not expanded their factories, and rightfully so. Now that we are seeing potential slowdown in the market, had they spent millions of dollars building out these factories, they may not have been able to recoup their costs. This is my overview. Do I think prices are going to go up? Yes. Do I still think there's opportunities for good pricing on e-bikes? Yes. And again, you have to kind of look around for it. For now, that's pretty much my take on the industry. I think if you're going to be looking for a bike and it's in stock, I'd say pick it up now. Could the price possibly go down? Yes. But are you willing to wait? That's the only thing, because they could also run out of stock. The riding season is still for another few months for most of us. Take advantage of that as well. It'll be worth it, in my opinion, if you actually get a bike now, even if the price goes down $100 or $200 and you've gotten this year 4 months out of riding. In my opinion, that would have been worth it. Ride safe, enjoy your ride. Oh, and I also want to know, please comment below, what are your thoughts? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Are you looking for a bike now? What bikes are you looking for? I mean, this is a great time to have some conversation out there. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video.